is all the information that you're learning about healing, trauma, the nervous system, somatics, attunement, all of these things you might be watching so many videos about. Is that actually causing you to be more analysis paralysis, overload, slowing you down from actually feeling better and processing some of this stuff and moving forward with your life? This is a very real phenomenon that is happening now. And it's important to become aware of this and learn how to navigate this. I'm going to give you some of my own perspectives on it, things that I find helpful and practical. So what this looks like, and I'm curious if any of you resonate with this, besides the good old analysis paralysis, where you might just be kind of debating a lot of like, should I do this technique? Should I do that? Should I listen to this person or that person? There starts to be, even in your own experience of, I'm feeling an emotion right now. I'm feeling stuck. I'm triggered by something. Starts to be, well, do I breathe into it? I need to feel it, right? But I don't want to overload my nervous system. But is it okay to feel? And should I do breath work? But breath work might overload things. And I need to make sure if I bring this up with a therapist or a practitioner that they're really attuned to me and are all parts of me in alignment with this, because I know there's parts of me that don't agree. And you are so in your head and so in the reactivity that the information you have is playing into the dance rather than giving you, like, what do I actually do here? Right? This, in my world as a musician, there is a parallel to this, which is, unless you want to be just an academic and teacher, which is totally fine, right? Same with emotional work. If you want to teach it or you have clients, so in my case, I'm going to learn a lot more perhaps about these different techniques than you might need to. A theorist, right? Someone who, I know all these chords and scales and I can tell you this composition and why this note might work against this note, but this composer, none of that is particularly relevant to, like, I can play a melody that sounds good, or I can create a groove that feels good on stage. That comes from years of practice. Right? Not understanding intellectually, well, this groove comes from South Africa and this comes from North Africa and it creates intention. You feel it because you play music. So you learn your inner landscape and how to work with emotion by actually being in it and experiencing it. Right? So practice is more important than theory the vast majority of cases. Really, you just need enough theory to then put it into practice, right? So most of you know too much, but an example would be, okay, if a teacher gives you a scale on the piano, you then practice that scale until your muscles can do it. So a starting point, at least in my work, would be something like to even start to notice what you're feeling and help welcome it. Just notice even your fighting of that emotion and allowing even the fighting of it. That would be something that you could practice hundreds of times just to get a grip on it. And to be able to do that will not change based on how much you know about, polyvagal theory, right? You could learn everything and still not be able to actually just be present for a moment with the sensation of my left hand, right? And that would be a place I would often start if emotions themselves are a bit overwhelming. Right? Just a physical experience. Can I be present with that? That is a practice. And remember, as humans, we tend to avoid things like practice. They sound like homework, right? And especially when we're talking about emotional work. Always remember, emotional work, like actually doing the stuff that's going to move you forward, you want it to be gentle. If you're familiar with what I do, I'm a very constant emphasis on not pushing, not trying to fix, not trying to change, but still, any type of being present with ourselves is confronting. There is going to be a part of you that's going to want to avoid it. And so learning feels safe. I'll watch another video, right? Let's just find out more about whatever this nervous system theory is and how that might be. That could be interesting. But part of you will tend, I don't mean you, I just mean any human, right? Will often lean into ways to avoid something that might be create discomfort. Just like there's a tendency to avoid actually practicing your instrument, and instead I'll watch videos about it. So keep that in mind. Remember, you don't need so many ideas. It's something that resonates with you. You've probably already found at least one thing. And just remind yourself, okay, the application matters more than the learning. So if I've learned one thing that might be valuable, one way of being present, one way of just sort of feeling into my body very gently, or noticing, orienting to the room, right? Every time you practice that, that's going to improve, and that matters more than accumulating more information about it. Another thing I wanted to touch on around this is when you're, I'm going to say, overlearning, you're going to get information from conflicting teachers, and then you're going to be like constantly cross-referencing them, right? This is like epidemic right now. Well, this person says this, and this one says this. Yeah, they do, right? Like, not everyone agrees on everything. And they might both be good, just like there's, a different, if you're using Samandal technique on an upright bass, there's other techniques, they also work. But if you're doing like a half hour of one and a half hour of the other every day, it's going to create problems. And our minds love to get into, well, which one is better? Which one is perfect? I need to do the right one or I won't heal. That is often a trauma response. That is in and of itself something to look at, right? This trying to get it right. I need to pick the perfect teacher. If you are in that, you're going to benefit far more from taking a very simple technique to be present with the, oh, I need to get it right, right? You might do a tapping video here on my channel, need to be perfect, right? Anything that helps you connect to that, to be present with that feeling and see that as the practice rather than, oh, I actually need to compile more information to get it right. That's going in the other direction. That's going to compile more and more. And then it's going to be even harder because now you have 67 flavors of ice cream to choose from instead of 2. And should I mix this one with that one? And boy, does that get messy, right? The fundamentals of a lot of this work is similar. And the people who know what they're doing, there are often consistent themes of at least not pushing, not forcing, learning, not diving deep into your most painful emotions. At least I'm very strong in that camp. But then, okay, to be present, to learn how to connect with what you're feeling. If you can't feel, that's okay. There are ways to do that, whether you use your body or not, right? You're going to have a sense of what can work for you. And one tool that you even have a sense, even if you're not good at it, you're not supposed to be good at it. That's the whole point, right? It's new. It's something you have to practice. If we were all good at these things, I wouldn't have had to learn any of them. I wouldn't be a facilitator and there wouldn't be any need for a facilitator, and I wouldn't take sessions with facilitators because we'd all just be really great at this. So remember, these are skills. These are things like to even be present with what you're feeling for more than 5 seconds, 2 seconds. It's not easy, especially at the beginning. So one thing that you say, okay, this at least gets me in there. Right? These tapping videos do it for me. This guided process, this very gentle, somatic, just like feeling my weight in the chair, that does it for me. That gets me in a zone. Then you will want to lean into those and do that 100 times at least before you worry about adding more to it. Stuff is learned. It gets ingrained. Think of it like language, like playing an instrument. And I believe that will help you being in that frame of mind. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm not even going to link to other resources of mine so that you're not overlearning. Just know that if you want to reach out, you can do so in the description if you have questions, or leave them in the comments. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.